Hey guys, as you may already know, one of the areas I focus on in my practice is resolving tax debts. And to that end, I'd like to talk about asset equity and partial payment installment agreements. A partial payment installment agreement is a monthly payment plan option for taxpayers who have a tax balance but are unable to full pay the balance within the remaining time the IRS has to collect such balance. It's called the Collection Statute Expiration Date, or CSED. Now, a partial payment installment agreement may be granted if you have no assets or equity in assets, or if you have liquidated available assets to make a partial tax payment. A partial payment installment agreement may also be granted if you do not sell or cannot borrow against assets with equity. Now, here are 6 reasons the IRS will likely approve your partial payment installment agreement even if you have assets. Number 1. The assets have minimal equity, or the equity is insufficient to allow creditors to fund the loan. So typically, lenders require an equity of greater than 20% of the property in order to grant the loan. So if that doesn't happen, they won't allow you to access the income to pay off the debt. If you're unable to, number 2, if you're unable to utilize equity, if you're unable to utilize the equity in the asset, that's an issue. The IRS will not go along in a case where the property is held as a tenancy by the entirety in a state that does not allow only one spouse to encumber such property. When only one spouse owes the money and the non-liable spouse declines to go along with the attempt to borrow, and the property does not appear to have been transferred into the tenancy to avoid a tax collection. Number 3, the asset has some value, but the taxpayer is unable to sell the asset because it's currently unmarketable. Let's say it's in the property is business property, it's in a high value area, but the lot cannot be sold until it meets certain environmental regulations. Well, they can't force a sale, they can't get the money, so they'll be forced to, the IRS, will be forced to allow you to do a partial payment installment agreement. Now, the asset is necessary to generate income for the taxpayer. This is number 4, and the partial payment agreement and will receive more. The government will receive more in the future by income generated by the asset than the sale of the asset. They're going to go along with it as well. Number 5, if it would pose an economic hardship to sell the property, borrow an equity and assets, or use a liquid asset to pay the taxes. Now, economic hardship is basically defined as taxpayers an inability to pay his or her living expenses, reasonable living expenses. Can't be anything fancy, just reasonable, okay? So utilities, food, shelter, that sort of stuff. This also considers assets that are used to produce income. So let's assume you're in a fixed income, such as Social Security, and you have the ability to make small payments. Let's also assume that you have property that's your primary residence. That's the only property that you have. Now there's equity in the asset. Now we'll do this analysis and we'll just determine if that equity is sufficient to pay off the debt, full pay the debt within the statute expiration date, CSED date, all right, and without you being strapped for cash to maintain your reasonable lifestyle. Okay, so if that happens, then the IRS most likely will not ask you to tap the equity in your home, but will just go along with whatever you can pay until the statute expires. Number 6, if the loan payment would exceed your disposable income and therefore not qualify you for a loan, that's also an instance where you would not be asked to full pay. You would be put on some sort of payment agreement, namely partial pay installment agreement. Now, if you want to hear more about partial pay installment agreements, you must attend my webinar, How to Protect Yourself from the IRS and Resolve Your Tax Debts. You can get free tickets at the link that's in the description to this video. Click on that link, you get to the Eventbrite page. You can order the tickets or just search Eventbrite for my name. Okay, thank you guys, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Bye.